Okay, stop doing this to your acrylic. It's not a runaway train. You just put the acrylic on there. Instead, I want you to grab your brush, fully submerge it to get all the air bubbles out, and we're gonna create a medium bead. So we're going to lightly wipe it from the middle for a medium bead. Brush, slightly wipe 1, 2, 3, very lightly, so you don't get rid of all the product. And then we're gonna 1, 2, 3. I'm not dragging the brush. Lightly dip. Let it sit for a second. You see how the monomer is mixing with the acrylic. We're gonna set it onto the middle of the nail where you want the apex to be. Lightly touching it, okay? You can re-wet your brush if you like. All you're gonna do is lightly pat. I'm using the middle of my brush, which is where the majority of the liquid is. And then just for the bottom of the bead, we're just going to lightly pat. Now, as you see here, I'm not overly manipulating the acrylic, trying to brush it down immediately, being impatient. You see me very slowly letting the bead kind of do its thing, and I'm using gravity to kind of let the bead pull the acrylic down. Every now and then, if you want to, you can go ahead and directly put your finger in a 90-degree angle, so that way the bulk of the acrylic runs down. But you're just gonna kind of eyeball this. Now, it is gonna take some practice, but key note that you want to keep in the forefront of your mind when you're handling acrylic, when placing the bead onto the nail and wiping down anything that you do in the nail, whether you're filing, you're doing your design, you want to look at every single angle of the acrylic, so that way you know for a fact, okay, all the corners have been covered, everything is even, everything looks good. Look at it from every single angle, even from the front angle, to make sure that the apex is looking good. Now at this point, we're only doing the first bead. And then of course we are going to get a little closer to the cuticles, but as you can see, that has taken care of the bulk of the nail all the way down to the free edge. And we did not waste any product. You don't see the acrylic all messy, running all over the place. It is absolutely perfect. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and do a smaller bead. As you can see, I usually give it about a second before I go ahead and place it on the nail, because again, you want the monomer and powder to mix perfectly before you actually put the bead onto the nail. If not, it could end up being too dry of a bead. And then as you see, I'm only wiping the bottom part of that bead, so that way it just blends in with the rest of the nail. And I'm going to show you a side angle in a moment. Now, as you can see, we're going to get slightly closer now to the acrylic. So this one was about a 3 bead method. So I did do the apex as you saw. And then from there, we're going to push closer to the cuticles, doing very light pats, not overly manipulating the acrylic, because if not, you are indeed going to flood the cuticles. Now, I will say this little silicone hand is fantastic for practicing. But once you've kind of got the hang of the consistency of the liquid to powder ratio, you're going to want to practice on an actual hand or even your own, so that way you could actually get used to the product on an actual finger, because it is slightly different. Now, the apex is fully built. It's a little thin at the bottom, so what we're going to go ahead and do is grab a medium bead. You're going to fully put your brush into the liquid, let the air bubbles out as we did before, and we're going to wipe 3 times, starting from the middle of the brush down to the free edge of your brush, so that way you have a medium-sized bead. Let it sit there for a second again, so that way it's not watery, running all over the place. I'm here just retouching up the little edges, and again using the body of my brush, which is the middle part of my brush, doing little light taps. And again, that is where the majority or the bulk of your liquid is at. I'm just going to slightly brush upwards from the beginning of the bead, or I guess the top part of the bead, so that way we can kind of blend up towards the apex. Try not to manipulate the middle of that bead too much, so that way you don't get rid of the bulk of the product that's supposed to be taking care of that little ledge that we're trying to fill. And then the bottom of the bead, you see me just very lightly doing little love taps, very like feathering the material. downwards. After that, again, we're gonna look at every single angle. You see me constantly tilting the finger to make sure that everything is even. I don't have any missing spots for acrylic, and boom, that is a perfect apex. You are ready to go. Now that the product looks this good, you won't have to file as much anymore. Key tip, when your application is perfect, you end up being faster because you're cutting down on filing time. Now, if this is helpful for you guys, then follow me for more tips and tricks. Follow all of my handles from IG, TikTok to YouTube at _nail_go. Love you.